Thank you so much for having me. And thanks, Ryan, to you as well. I'm thrilled to be here. And it was very fun sharing an office with Brian. So also fun sharing a Zoom room right now. But excited to be here with the Products That Count community to share a little bit about some of the work and my experience at Mastercard. Obviously, these are kind of my view and what happened, but wanted to take you through a case study of a website that I have worked on and continue to work on, and how we went from really being just about driving projects to how we became really customer focused and obsessed, and what that journey was like. And maybe it resonates with some of you, maybe it doesn't, but hopefully we can all learn from each other today. So please feel free to interrupt me at any time. So what I wanted to tell you about today is a little bit of a journey that I went through. So I showed up working at Mastercard 3 years ago and was the product manager for something called Connect. Now, what is Connect? Mastercard Connect is the website that all of Mastercard's customers come to service their business with us, whether it is to see their invoices, manage their disputes, their frauds. This is the place that they come. It serves over 7,000 companies. We probably have around 750,000 unique sessions a month. And they're coming to this website with a job to be done, to access over 160 different tools and reports. And they're coming to us from all around the world, probably 192 countries to be exact. And all these different users had different journeys, different jobs that they wanted to do on the platform. And so we had a lot to learn. And when I got here, it felt a little bit like this. Every time someone said that they had something to do, we would go kind of swarm the soccer field and run after the project. So someone said something had to be fixed and we'd all run this way, and someone would say something else and we'd all run that way. And it didn't feel like we were getting anything done. And by the end of this journey that we went through together, it felt like we were working like a team, and we were kicking goals and just really making an outcome on behalf of our customers and an impact, which is what we wanted. But it took a lot of work to get there. And the first thing we had to do was start thinking about those customers, thinking about all those different companies and users that were coming to us day after day with a job to get done. And so what we did was we had to take a step back and say, okay, we have a lot of work to get done. We work on this website that people rely on every day, but how do we start to understand those customers? How do we start to understand those different customer segments, what they're trying to do, and what are their problems? And we took a step back, and a tool that we used during this time was something called a journey taxonomy map, where we took the quantitative data we had available and the qualitative data by talking to certain customer segments that we had prioritized to figure out what were their most frequent touch points? Where were those areas of opportunity where things were just so painful, but they were doing so often that if we touch those points, we could really make a difference. And by getting to know the customers, by getting to know their stories, their pain points, we were able to prioritize and say, we believe this is going to change the needle. And most importantly, when all those different groups were coming to us saying, go do this or go do that, it gave us the voice and the power to say no with the reasoning of the data, and most importantly, the reasoning of the customer voice, how we were going to help them. So first and foremost, it was about those customers first. And then what we did is we organized our teams around capabilities. We had about 10 different Scrum teams. And before, they were just kind of working on services and things. And instead of just kind of giving them a random assortment of work or a project, we said, you own this service or this capability. So for example, there was one group that worked on sign in every day. And their job was to make sure that sign-in failures were reduced on the platform. So that drove ownership around our key objectives. And most importantly, we defined success outcomes. What were the metrics we were going to try and drive to change the outcomes for our customers? And so as we did this and we changed this mindset, again, it was starting with the customers, organizing around those capabilities, so giving teams clear focus, and then focusing on the metrics. And then to inspect ourselves as a team, we would come together through what we called rhythm of the business activities to facilitate discussion around how we were actually moving the metrics in all these key areas. And so that was really our process, and allowed us to move from the kids on the soccer field just swarming to kicking goals. But I think the important thing to remember from all of this is to understand our customers and their problems. It's not a one-time exercise. It's not like we just did that one journey taxonomy and said, you know what, We know what our customers' needs and wants are. This is something that we continuously go through and groom and reevaluate monthly and use different tools in our toolkit and different cadences based on our actual needs and desires. So obviously monthly, we're looking at our data. Obviously, it's the most powerful thing we have. We're looking at the metrics of our product, so how things are working. And then as a lagging indicator, we're also evaluating our customer support tickets. So what's happening there? Are there any trends? That's something we're doing as an always-on activity. Then we have research in our back pocket. So that's if we need to do new market assessments or competitive analysis, or there's something really big that we don't understand that we want to validate our assumptions. We'll kick off a research effort. Then we're looking at the qualitative data we have available. For us on this Connect team, when we were thinking about it, at the time, and since I've actually, the team has evolved, we don't even do this anymore, but we used to have user advisory groups twice a year where we bring customers together to evaluate some of our ideas. And then we do a voice of the customer survey. And those were things we would do, every once a year, twice a year to really get feedback from a listening standpoint so we could hear. And then finally, we'd have collaborative exercises, whether we would go and bring screens that we were planning on building, so nothing that would be released any further than 6 months in advance, and testing ideas and language with customers on an ongoing basis. So again, using the different tools in our toolkit to stand up customer activities to support this customer journey. I'm going to pause there. Any questions so far of kind of the customer tools we use or anything that got us into the customer mindset? Okay. Don't be
I'll actually, sorry, I'll interject just because I'm curious. Speaking to the qualitative research here, I think that's a challenge that a lot of companies have of really understanding how to fit that in, how to draw conclusions from, very small sample size things that may be opinion, dealing with timelines of qualitative research. Just curious, did you have any challenges around that, or is Mastercard a company that already kind of inherently understood those things?
It's been an evolution. I think it's leveraging the qualitative customer data at the right moments of time. And so for us, we were fortunate that we worked in a really forward thinking group that already had a customer base that they were reaching out to all the time. And then it was figuring out when to use the qualitative versus the quantitative and how to make sure that we were getting individual feedback of the right users and not just going to a customer because they came to us saying they were interested in giving feedback, and focusing on the customers that are actually using those experiences so we get the best feedback possible and move forward. So there was some evolution and grooming, I would say, of how we evaluated the customers we wanted to talk to and then when based on the different types of needs we had. Cool. Right. Well, don't be shy. Everyone speak up or get on video. It's fun. It's 6 o'clock, or at least if you're on the East Coast. All right. So more importantly, it was not just about, as I said, focusing on the customer. It was also about how we got organized and how we took, again, moving against a long-term vision. Once we understood our customers, it was setting out a plan. And for us, we said we want to be the next edge for B2B customers to manage and then grow their businesses with Mastercard. And so we kind of created this visual for ourselves and for executives and for our team of where do we want to go next, right? Right now, we're a simple and unified experience, right? We want to be reliable. That's a great goal. But in the future, we want to be intuitive and timely. We want to be global. So we know we support 192 countries. How do we make sure we're multi-language? We want to make ourselves more effective. And then finally, in the future, we want to be insightful. We want to be giving recommendations to our customers. And so how do we bring ourselves on this journey? And so we knew where we were wanting to be going. We knew that for at least a year, we needed to break ourselves down into big rocks with where we wanted to focus, where we wanted to be year one. And most importantly, we drove ourselves by a North Star, OSAT. So how do we drive our satisfaction of our customers? And we set a goal there of what we wanted to move. And then we organized our teams around these big rocks. So the capability teams were then laddered up against these big rocks. And for us, they were safety and soundness. So how do we improve the operational health and security of our platform? The second part of it was connect to the future. We wanted to make it easy for other teams within Mastercard to build applications for our customers to use and publish into our website. We wanted to improve the top customer journey. So how do we make things faster? How do we improve time on task for different things that our customers are doing throughout the experience? And we wanted to make sure that we were building the foundation for the future, that we were supporting market expansion. If we were going to get global in year 2, what did we have to do in year 1? And so these big rocks were key and part of the inspection mechanism of were we driving them forward or not to show that we were making progress. And the way we laid this out from an organization standpoint, and I thought for some of you, this might seem like, oh, this is so easy. For others looking for a framework, for us, this was really helpful to see our priorities for the year mapped against our different big rocks. And then for each big rock, we had a key measure, 1 or 2 of them. And then what we were going to deliver with each of those within each of those big rocks. And then the capability teams, so your Scrum teams, were able to deliver against them and then could see their success as they worked against those key measures. And when we thought about our team structure, this, I don't know if anyone else faces this at all, but for us, we're a global company. We have people all around the world. And so what we strive to do, and it's not always easy to do, and again, this is a case study from my experience, we tried to put product engineering and design, ideally all co-located, so they have as many working hours together as possible, again, giving them clear ownership of what they were doing. Ensuring that teams had their metrics that they were driving towards so they could make those tough decisions on their own. Again, if the team was focused on sign-in and sign-in failures, they should be able to figure out their own backlog and think through based on what they were seeing, what they want to put in that backlog to drive that metric forward. And then making sure that all of these different capability teams, their roadmaps align to the big rocks, they align to those deliverables. If they don't, that's not stuff we deemed we should be working on. And again, gave the teams the right to say no. So in addition to that, as I said, first, obviously focused on the customer and then focused on evaluating that customer experience again and again. Then it was about organizing our team around the capabilities, around what we understood the customer to need. And then finally, it was a continuous evaluation of how we understand our business. And so for us, it's constantly looking at metrics. Yes, it's your business level metrics. So what is it you're trying to move? Whether it's revenue, what are the big drivers that you're trying to move? Your capability team metrics, so giving each of the teams the ownership of those metrics. And then also making sure your developers have those metrics, how they understand if their products are serving our customers or not, and making sure that you can all work together. And again, this isn't a one-time exercise. This is continuous. And so again, it's that metrics again and again and reevaluating and then inspecting through the rhythm of the business to make sure that you are having a final impact on your customer. And so this is some of the work and the exercises that we went through to organize our little Connect team. When we started, we were about 3 product managers and a product team. And when we ended, it was about 12 of product marketing and product ops. And we went from having not had a major release in 2 years to 1 major release, significantly driving up our OSAT, and most importantly, gaining confidence with our stakeholders and making additional improvements for our customers. And this model has allowed us to release monthly continuous improvements to show our metrics and to give our teams increased ownership. So for this example, it did work really well for us. It was a good model. But I think the thing that is the most important, and I think which I've always learned the most, and I think Brian would say the same, I think we were taught from the same school, is that it always starts with the customer, their needs, their wants, their pains, and go from there. And they're your most important stakeholder to drive the outcomes and success. So I'm really happy that I got to share a little bit of the journey of this website, this little website, which, I love dearly, but would love to hear if anyone has questions or thoughts about the experience.
Cool. Thanks, Dana, for that. Really, interesting case study. I'm sure over a course of 3 years, it was most likely much more difficult than you made it sound. But very good summary there. Did have a couple questions coming here. It looks like they're both from Mustafa, actually. And the question is basically, can you share some of the metrics that you used, I guess, to drive the business of some of these decisions? I know you went over kind of at a high level, but think maybe the request is for a little bit more detail there.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of metrics, OSAT was our North Star. We thought a lot about it. And really at the end of the day, it was about the satisfaction of our customers. And if we could make things better for them, then we would have improved. On a capability level, it depended on the capabilities. So for example, we had one team dedicated to sign in. Sign in is one of the most frequent activities, the most frequent activity. And it was causing some of our customers pain. So it was reducing sign-in failure rates. Other metrics were around time on task. So we had key journeys in the experience that we knew were either taking too many clicks or we're taking too much time, we're too complicated. And so we started measuring time on task for key activities that are like a checkout, as well as key activities that a customer needed to do within the experience. And so those were two of the other key metrics that we used. Other metrics that we looked at in terms of, I'm being a little high level, was around any incident reductions as well. That was a key one for us. In terms of, incidents, however you measure them at your company, and whatever that means, making sure there was a reduction there. And then also looking at closure of issues as well. So just a high level few of the metrics that we looked at depending on what we were measuring. So in terms of measures for the OSAT, we did it twice a year. About 60 days after a major release and then 6 months after. And then for our capability metrics, so what was driving the team, the expectation is that the team is looking at those metrics daily, hourly, like they should know if things are changing, right? Like if there's a spike one way or the other, I really hope they know. But at a minimum, evaluating it monthly. And then for the key business metric drivers, we also are evaluating those monthly as well. So for us, again, when it was at the capability level, what the team owned, the expectation is that they're looking at it all the time. It's guiding their work. And from a high level business metrics, those were being done monthly. So we could get a better analysis month over month. And Mustafa, I'm sorry you're having Zoom issues, but hopefully you got all that.
Cool. Yeah, folks, please submit your questions if you have them. This is great. I'll throw another one in while we're waiting for other people. I think this is a little bit tangential to maybe the focus of your talk, but you mentioned two things that kind of perked my ears up. One of the challenge and the desire to have teams co-located, and then a comment at the end around scaling from the 3 people or it was to 12 squads, which I think anybody who's been through even partially through that journey appreciates how difficult it is to scale a team that much. I'm curious to get just a little bit more from you on how you thought through that, and particularly the justification of I need an additional person to do XYZ. Like how did that process work?
Yeah. So for us, I came in with, I will admit, some of a business case already funded. So that's part of how I also was fortunate enough to be hired onto the team. But as we justified and thought through the role expansion specifically and where we needed people, it really was based on what we had executed as our business case. And I think the thing that I didn't share was that the team had been working and had already gotten a business case funded, but how we were going to do that work and how we stopped that churn of running after the ball, right? So it's one thing to get a business case funded and say, I have this great idea and this is what I want to achieve. It's another thing to organize and operationalize it and to focus on the right things to take something to the next level. And so when we did that and we started to organize, we really thought through where we need to where we need to actually put teams of people against critical areas of work and what we thought that body of work entailed. And so that's how we started to think through, okay, we need a product manager over here. We need a product manager over here based on the scope of the capability. And if we thought it could be handled 2 teams by 1 person or 1 person to 1 product manager, based on what we saw the size and the scope to be, and also based on what we thought it would be kind of more tactical work of, we're trying to move the needle and the person's going to be coming up with the backlog as they think through those challenges versus some of the more long-term thinking work that might be going 2 years out, and how we married the 2 together. So it definitely was a balancing act. I would say more of an art than a science in terms of thinking through what we thought the size of the team should look like.
Cool, thanks.
Merrick, you asked, at what touch points were your customers asked about their OSAT? So we've changed this over the years, and the current way is that we send a survey twice a year. And the survey now is essentially 2 questions. And we try and make it as short and easy as possible, as well as a way to give feedback on any issues they might be having that we can follow up on. We have tried to get kind of feedback through longer surveys. They weren't as effective for us. And then we also did try not OSAT, but just kind of like a gauge on how pages were working through a feedback Qualtrics form on page. But again, wasn't the most effective for our type of user who was really coming in, job to be done, wants to get off the site, and was not as interested in giving feedback real time. I think it really depends on your customer base. You sometimes need to test those out.
Cool. Any other questions, folks? Ryan, anything from you?
Robin. Oh yeah, live question.
Yeah, Robin, you should be able to jump in if you can unmute.
Can I ask people on the chat a question if you're willing to share? Do you also have challenges in your organizations about getting people to think with the customer first, or is it just commonplace? If it's easy, say yes. And if no, say no. Oh, no one liked that. Okay.
I think we got 1 yes.
1 yes.
Do we?
Can be a challenge, yeah. So we got 1 yes and 1 can be a challenge.
Highly technical nature of these interactions on Zoom make things a little clunky, unfortunately. Sorry, everybody.
Team starts with their ideas and looks for it to be validated. Yeah. It's good to hear, Liz, that they're validating their ideas with the customers. Always key. Robin, do you want to go? We went away.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, oh, we have some more comments, but Robin may be having some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Merrick says it's customer first, but needing to challenge our own preconceptions of what is feasible.
Yeah. And also challenging your own assumptions. Like one of the hardest things about this is throwing your own assumptions away and seeing what the actual customer wants and needs. We're going through an exercise right now, and we make ourselves write down the assumptions we had just to make sure we challenge them, because you have preconceptions on the feasibility piece and then also on what you think the customer actually wants.
Oh, so Robin is having issues with audio and speaker on the laptop. But Robin, if you want to just type your question into the chat or in the Q&A, that would be fine. And Mustafa has another question.
How do you test for what customers want? That's a great question. I think, you know, it depends on the type of what you're working on, right? So, you know, from the experience I had with the Connect website, it was what is it you're doing most often, and what is causing you pain, and what do you want to do? And so we're really evaluating for what is the experience you want to have? How do you want to interact with us? Where are you having challenges, and how can we help you? And so it really became about evaluating the jobs that they wanted to be done. So if they were coming to do a task, helping us understand what that task is, what they wanted to do with it, and where they were having challenges. So then we could figure out what it was we could do to help that experience, to make it easier for them to do what they already wanted to do.
Dana, you spoke about this a bit, but this idea of the importance of giving your team the power to say no, or the right to say no. Can you just say a little bit more about that? I think that's a really powerful idea when you're growing a team. Like, why was that so important with this Mastercard Connect team?
I mean, I think the power to say no is the power of a great product manager. And I don't mean to say that in a way of you should go around saying no, because you never want to be that person, but you want to say no when you know it's the right thing for your product and for your business. And for us, I think for so long, it was a website that so many people had a vested interest in. Our customers, different stakeholders within the company, everyone thought they knew how they were going to make it better. And so once we took the time to step back and evaluate what the customer wanted, evaluated what they were doing and where they were experiencing pain, we were able to go back to people and say, like, you know what, that is a great idea. But if you look at the 3 biggest challenges our customers are having around this website, that's not one of them. So let us focus on this first. Let us get it right for them, and let us come back to you. Or maybe they said to us, you know what, we think this is, can you change this? And we say, you know what, well, actually, have you thought about this? And so I think having that point of view, particularly when it's validated with data and qualitative on top of it, gave us the right to really make some bold claims and to say, this is the roadmap we're going to focus on. We're going to try and move the needle on behalf of our customers, and then let us get back to everything else. And in our case, we were fortunate to show that there was a huge lift in OSAT. And so we were focusing on the right things, but it did give us the opportunity then to say to other people, you know what, that might not be as important right now. So let us get back to you. And that's for us, was really key, because again, part of that was showing stakeholders and others how we were evaluating our metrics and what we were moving forward to bring everyone along on that journey with us. So saying no wasn't as hard.
That's great. Thank you. And I also had another sort of higher level question, which just thinking about how Mastercard Connect, it seems like is an important part of Mastercard sort of joining the new product economy in a way. I mean, Mastercard is sort of, I don't know if we can call them a legacy product or a legacy company, but this seems like sort of an important transition for them. I mean, was that part of your conversations on your team, as sort of the role of something like of a tool like Mastercard Connect, of helping Mastercard kind of bridge the old and the new, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think what's interesting about Mastercard Connect is it's where all of Mastercard's customers need to service their business with us. So think about all of the big financial institutions to the fintechs. And so we support, over 50 different lines of business within Mastercard on this one website, where they're coming to do different things. And we had to make sure, as we evaluate this, first and foremost, to get things right, we were focused on our most frequent users today, which are key institutions, right, that have always been a part of Mastercard's network. But now that we're 3 years into this journey, we're building and thinking about the future of the expectations of these new different customer segments, what their experiences might be similar or different, and what their needs might be. So it is an evolution as well of what the website does in terms of, you know, services that it offers, which other teams publish into our website, but also the expectations of these different types of segments and how we have to evolve to service those businesses as well. Nivedita has a question. Have you ever compared your CSAT up versus revenue increase, which may have been down? I have not in this example. I don't know, Brian or Ryan, have you guys have an example to give to this specifically?
No, that's a very interesting question.
I know, it's a great question. I haven't had this as a situation before.
Yeah, I think that the one thing I would chip in with debatable helpfulness, but is I think one of the possible failings in some cases, depending on how you use it, of CSAT or other metrics that are just measuring customer satisfaction or impression of your company, is one of the easiest ways to improve the impression of your company is to drop the price without changing your functionality or actual delivery of service to the customer whatsoever. So I don't know if that's maybe the type of thing that this question is hinting at, but there certainly can be examples or instances in which you do a thing, it drives satisfaction up, but it's actually not delivering customer value or ultimately business value, which I know is just kind of reflecting the question with a bit of more of an example, but I have not actually encountered that myself. I just know that it is a pitfall to be aware of, so to speak.
And it looks like Robin was able to get her questions into the Q&A, so she's got 2 questions there.
Ooh, 2 questions from Robin. Can you give an example of a fire drill on the job? Example, a critical incident, a last minute development or prod fix. What did you have to do? And then 2, what is the biggest challenge of your job? I mean, every day is a fire drill. I think, you know, I'm just trying to think of a good fire drill to share that would be appropriate in this context. You know, even in this past week, there have been multiple fire drills. I think that's part of the fun of these jobs. And, you know, one thing that happened this past week is, you know, that we had a challenge where one of our applications that I own wasn't working and customers weren't able to get in and use it. And that is never what you want, especially during business hours in the US. And so it's working with the team and making sure that they have the support and space they need to go fix and address it so that you're back up and running. And so I would say that's a typical fire drill day where, you know, something goes wrong and all hands on deck. You know, I have a major release going in on April 1st, and I was on a call right before this that, you know, something that we've been working on and we're about to put into production, the data isn't lining up between the different environments. And so what are we going to do and what happens if we're late and the different repercussions? And so how do we still go live on April 1 as planned, or do we have to change the customer communication? So we're going through all the different contingency planning, working with all the different teams, getting people lined up for what they need to do in the morning to troubleshoot what test data they need. So it really changes every day. But I would say the common factor is contingency planning, visibility, and giving people the space they need when there are these critical issues that they can just drop everything else to focus on it. And I would say the biggest challenge of my job is that I wish I was in the details on every single little thing. I'm a detail person. I sat in an office with Brian. I think he would know, he knows that I like to know every little thing, and every attribute and everything that's going on. And when you manage a large team, there's 26 people, not all reporting into me, obviously. I want to know every single feature that's on their backlog, and I want to know all of their challenges, and I can't. And so figuring out where I need to dive in when there is a fire drill and when I need to pull back. And I think what's allowed me to do that is giving people ownership and allowing them to focus on their metrics. So I can kind of pull back and look at some other things. But for me personally, that is always the biggest challenge, because I want to know everything. Robin, what's your biggest challenge? Oh, you can't talk. Any other questions? What tools do you use on a day-to-day basis? There's a lot of tools. I use Mural a lot. Obviously, they're just my personal, I'm not endorsing anything specifically, but just Mural I use a lot. Mixpanel for metrics I use a lot. Obviously, Teams to communicate, or if you're on Slack. I would say those are the three things I use the most often in my day-to-day life.
Cool. Any last minute questions from anybody? It's hard to see if anybody's typing.
Right. Well, while people are typing, I could ask an obligatory crypto question, I guess. Are there any conversations about cryptocurrency? Is that part of the Connect?
It isn't. It's not part of my world. Not part of my world at Mastercard. No.
Because I know there are some conversations at Mastercard about dealing with crypto, right?
Yes, there are, but not in my purview.
Cool. Looks like that might be it.
Cool.
But thank you so much once again. Great presentation. And I think I can safely say at least that was the most engaged question and answer session I've been a part of. So I really appreciate that from both you and everybody in the audience as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for having me, and thank you everyone for participating and being so great with the questions. I'd love to stay in touch with everyone, and thank you so much for having me again. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you, Dana, and thank you, Brian, and thanks to all the participants. Sorry about some of the Zoom issues, but yeah, thanks for all the great questions, and look for this talk to be featured on our website within the next week or so, along with a little blog summary, which I'll be writing. So once again, thank you all for attending this Products That Count Speaker Series event, and to our great speaker, Dana Rosenberg. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye. Good night. Thank you.